Surf's up. What's up, everybody? Here we are once again, and we're gonna kind of just pick up where we left off. We're here talking about some really cool stuff, and Jeff Booth is in the house here, and we're chilling, and we are in Colorado. I haven't left yet. Loving it here. Great weather. Feel free to ask any questions about all this stuff. This particular lesson here, or session, shall I say, is full of examples of how to use licks, and this is something that, even if it's off topic, whatever will help you stir up your creative juices and get those juices flowing. We really want to just kind of experiment here. And I only hope that you guys find at least one thing out of this particular session that's useful. And real quick, I would like to say that if you do find that one thing, don't hesitate to put on the tunnel vision, block out all the options, and specialize in one particular area. When I went to college for music, we actually had people kind of talk to us and say, hey, listen, you're probably going to go crazy. You're going to think you're insane because there's all this information coming at you. The best thing you can do is just learn what you can, try to ace the test, but at the same time, if you find something that works for you, don't ever hesitate to really grab the horse by the reins and make it your own, right? That's exactly what I did with the following licks. So let's get started with example one.
Hey, Emil, we actually have a question before we get into this.
Even better. What's up?
It's about licks, and that's why he asked this, and I thought we'd ask this from the start because I think it's actually kind of cool. His name is Scrimshaw, and he says, do you think that focusing on learning licks is a bad thing? Wouldn't that make your playing derivative to where you are only rehashing modified versions of other people's stuff?
Ooh, that's a good one. Just wondering because I learn a lot of licks but don't feel like I'm progressing as a creative person. Now, that's probably the best question of the whole trip so far. So this may take a second to answer, but I feel strongly about this question. So the answer is the same thing as writing a song. And what I've learned, coming from a guy that was the young shredder type that was more interested in Holdsworth and Sean Lane and all this stuff, and I scoff at Bob Dylan and scoff at verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, and these things that are sort of staples in Western music. So a parallel to your question would be actually a question about songwriting. Why would I use verse, chorus, bridge, chorus? Why would I play a lick that's already been done before? Well, there's a sense of familiarity with something, with a format. When you see a blues player, new or old, a lot of the music, actually all the music, it's all been done before. So, when I talk about licks and format of a song, it's not the be-all, end-all. It's not do this. It's actually a starting point. Looking at myself and my career as an example, before I started putting out records, I was always the same player. After similar things, just looking at how to learn and how to get the most out of a listener, whether it's listening to a record or whether it is playing live in front of people and seeing them react and pay attention to me and having them come back for more. I learned a long time ago in middle school when Jamal Coleman I brought a guitar to school, everybody freaked out, and I was playing my crazy shred licks, and Jamal Coleman's like, let me see that guitar, and he played a Dave Matthews song, and people flipped out. And I'm like, what just happened? I'm the best. I played all this craziness. Nobody cared. This dude picks up my guitar and plays Dave Matthews. Everybody goes wild. Why is that? Well, not everybody really has the right amount of a trained ear to accept tension. I love Alan Holdsworth, but I'm pretty certain that a person that is maybe 14, 15 years old and likes the pop stuff and doesn't play guitar, they're going to hear alien music, So that's the other extreme. So to answer your question, I hope that kind of made sense about the middle school story because that came back later in life when I started playing professionally. I would get a blues gig at a bar, and I'd play for my $50. Finally, I'm making it. I got a $50 gig, and they're even going to give me like a hamburger. Woohoo! I finally started working, and I played with this other cat in my band, and we would play the blues music and stuff like that, and I'd play a solo, and nobody would really care. This guy would play a solo, and he'd play licks, and people would cheer for him. And he was not a very good player. So instead of going, screw this guy, I go, okay, let's analyze the situation. What's happening here? And I realized that I was playing craziness over blues rock in a blues rock bar in front of people that listen to blues rock music. So I could A, force my agenda and play my Alan Holdsworth licks over this blues music and be ignored all night. Or I can play my position and I can make adjustments and go, you know what? I'm going to learn some licks, and this is what I did. I'm like, I'm going to learn some turnaround licks. I'm going to learn some B.B. King licks. I'm going to learn some Stevie Ray and some Hendrix, and I'm going to seriously change my approach. And literally, the next week at this gig, it was a whole different story. I demolished the guy. I had the audience eaten out of my hand because I figured out that people need familiarity to understand what's going on. A lot of people just don't understand what's going on. Even if it sounds and feels good to you, a person in the back of the room may be like, what is this? Okay? So that's really important. And to further this, what happened later in my career was I got involved in a band. I stopped playing metal, but then my metal band got signed. So I was like, I'll give this one more try. But I was grounded enough to go, you know what, if I do this, I don't want to go pretend to be Yngwie because Yngwie is the best at being Yngwie. I want to be myself. And what am I working on? I'm working on Django Reinhardt, Charlie Christian, stuff like that from the old school. So I decided that I was going to find a way to make what I'm doing work over heavy metal. And that actually involved taking my favorite licks from my favorite players and changing just a couple of notes to where people would hear that familiarity, predict where it's going, and then they don't get what they thought they were going to get, and they go, wow, that's interesting, and they go back and listen. So it's all a big test. It's all a big who's listening. You know what I mean? Who's listening to me right now? You know? So to answer your question, I think it's all what you make of it. If you're going to learn the licks and just take the same licks and then just go play them, and there's the lick, then yeah, it's probably not going to be very productive over time. But if you take a lick, and we're about to get into this, I should have just used this question as the opening to this lesson, so kudos to you, man. If you take a lick, make it your own, and learn it to the point of where you can do it in your sleep, and then make those adjustments and make it your own, you establish your own sense of style. You establish a foundation in a sound that may already exist, that is tried and true. You don't have to go sound like Stevie Ray. But if you learn a Stevie Ray lick and put your favorite Holdsworth tones in there and play it like a man or a woman, or play it like an adult, then you're going to find some different reactions from people. And one last thing before we get started, I didn't know what I was doing until I played Paris, France, first time in Europe, and this guy comes up to me and goes, "You sound like Borelli Lagreen." And I was like, "You heard that?" He goes, "Oh yeah, we all hear it." Like, really? He's like, "Yeah, man, you're playing gypsy jazz over metal." And I was like, oh my God, one person realizes what I'm doing. And then I realized it wasn't just one person. And then we kept putting out records. I gained the confidence. I kept going that route. And I don't have a lot, but when I play, people know who's playing. You know what I mean? So, excellent question. I hope that answers I hope that gives you an answer that you could use there. And if it doesn't, let's get on to example one, and maybe seeing me use these over certain scenarios will give you a good idea of where you can go with this. So, example one. This is a Charlie Parker lick, an A7. And I'll play the lick first, and then I'll talk about how to approach the lick and get the most out of it based on the way jazz guys utilize licks, which is a really, I think, a really special way to look at stuff. So here is the actual lick. Make sure I get this correct. Okay, so A7. Okay, pretty basic, nice and slow. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on there, because we've got 3 licks today, but we're taking those 3 licks and we're going to run them over a 1-4-5 12-bar blues progression, so I can show you how many different places and times you can actually use this idea, to the point of where if you can alter this a little bit while improvising, you basically can take this one lick and you have a whole world of ideas to pull from, okay? So that lick, the one important thing I learned about a lick is that it's usable in more than one place. So that guitar shop lick, this thing, that's an A minor lick, and it starts off of the root note. So that's not just indigenous to that one chord. If I go to D minor in a minor blues, which is very common, oh, I could take that same lick and play it off D minor. And now I'm playing the chord changes, but I'm not having to go to college for a jazz degree, right? Okay, So this particular lick, it starts on the major third. And look at that, it ends on the flat 7. And guess what the formula is for a dominant chord? 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So essentially what you're doing is you're landing on the notes of the chord, the really important ones, the primary and secondary chord tones. So we know where it starts now, but let's be a pattern player. Let's be a guitar player, and let's look and go, okay, let's say you don't know what the major third is, and who cares anyways? Well, let's just look at it this way. It starts right here. It starts 1, 2, 3 strings up and 1 fret over. So when I see this chord, I see this lick. To further this, to get even more out of this one tiny lick, we're now going to go and we're going to play it in multiple octaves. So on the tab right here, what I have is... The good news about this lick is it's kind of designed... I chose this lick because it sort of falls on 2 strings. So it's really easy to kind of see it as a shape. And what we have is... And then we have... And for the bold, we have... Okay, so that is example 1, all right? You can play it fast, you can play it slow. And what I want to do, the way that I want to structure this stuff here so we can get the most out of it is I want to open up my little backing track. And I want to click on my 12-bar blues. Let's see where we at. No, you don't want to hear Dick Dale and the Dale tones. You don't want to hear surf rock. I love that guy. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So 12-bar blues, real quick. So here's the 1. So when I go to the 4, that same lick works the exact same way on this chord. So now, not only do we have it in 3 or 4 different octaves for one chord, we now have it for 3 or 4 different octaves on a whole different chord, and it sounds awesome. Okay? So here's what we have. Just looking at this chord in particular, starting right here, there's the major third, just plot it in. So here's what we have. So you can hear the change, right? And it's not cheating. It's a start. It's a way to create a foundation. So I'm going to take that lick. That was the same lick through 3 different chords, right? So let me play this lick. This one lick through the entire 12-bar blues, as many places as I can fit it. Okay, so that was a little repetitive, right? But as you can see, it's a method, and I can easily work that method. So if I can easily work that method, that means I can easily alter that method to kind of relieve the listener of monotony. You don't want to be too predictable on guitar. You want to seem free, of course. Think about your favorite player and how free they seem when they play stuff. They could be playing the same pattern all over the neck that's just got a rhythmic difference. You know what I mean? So, I mean, for instance, if I can take this lick and I can go... I mean, to me, I'm sitting there just making music, not even really thinking very much other than like, oh, I'm gonna play it up here, I'm gonna play it down there. Actually, what I'm thinking when I'm jamming with this, because it's abbreviated thought, I call it, more notes, less thought, my thought in my head is like, don't mess up. That's all I'm really thinking about. Don't screw up. Don't sound bad. Sound as good as you can. So that's essentially what we're in for another couple of examples. Let's keep moving. All right.
Hey, before we move on,
Sure.
somebody was asking a question that's kind of about this.
Uh-huh.
He says, I have learn some licks but can't really use and apply them even to a basic rhythm. Are we going to take a look at that in this session?
Yeah, as far as a rhythm, yeah, I kind of just touched on that too. So that'd be a really good thing to sort of address. Let's get the metronome out then, and sort of let's take the next lick. We'll keep moving, and I'll show you how I try to really embody an idea and make it. You ever see a drummer? If you ever see a drummer like play on his legs, or bang on a pot or a pan, or play a drum kit, like, it's interesting. You can tell that's a drummer. It's very different from me, like banging on my legs or banging on pots and pans. Inside of their body, inside of their being, is a sense of rhythm that we don't have because we're not drummers. We may have a little bit of it. We may understand it, but I love great drummers, and I've had the pleasure of playing with a few, and they all do the same thing. If they play on their legs, it's hilarious. It sounds just as good as they do when they're playing a drum kit. So we're trying to eternalize the licks the same way that the drummer embodies rhythm, and they move their limbs about to create rhythm for guitar players to play to. So let's pick a decent BPM. Let's go a little slower. Around 120. All right. Here is the lick. So I'm gonna get it down. First is get it down. But then second is don't trust yourself. You don't have it down. Keep going. Okay? Next, let's mess around with it. Let's sit on the couch and just have fun with it and put some other notes in there and try to give a bit of a punctual ending to it. Something like, let's go real simple. There we go. How about that? All right, so check it out. We're going to keep going. Next on the list is we do it in octaves. We're going to go. We're sort of planning, we're sort of like plotting what we're doing here. I just went up the scale, up the pentatonic scale. I see how many little tiny variations I'm coming up with because it's one small lick. That's all it is. It's three notes. So again, based on yesterday's sessions where I was like literally freaking out about pyramids and Arby's, which is a long story. I'm sure you guys will see it in the archives. Pretty hilarious. Pyramids, gigantic stone structures built by little smaller, well, probably we can't lift them up, but they're definitely smaller than the pyramids. A brick house, a giant structure that's built with a bunch of bricks. This is a very small idea that can be utilized, and you can build a bigger picture with it, and you can have more control. So when I sit on the couch and I make up a lick, or I learn a lick, or I find a cool lick online, I'm not going for just let's sound like that. I'm going for how does it work, and if I see the ability for it to help me, then I embrace it, and I try to play it all over the neck in different rhythms. I sit down on the couch and just jam on it and try to make it my own. So this lick right here is a Jimmy Rosenberg lick. He's the prodigal son of somewhere in Holland, but he's out of commission now. He's kind of in obscurity, but he was at a very young age a child prodigy. One of my favorite guitar players. But this lick, he plays this lick a billion miles an hour. And I love that lick because it's kind of Chuck Berry, kind of like Freddie King. But what I'm doing literally is just finding out how to play it everywhere. So its functionality is what I'm after. So over A7, This is over D7, by the way. And if you look at it, it goes right over the D major triad, which is very kosher when it comes to playing over a dominant chord. So what does that mean? Well, how do we play it over A7 and E7? Well, to me, let's go ahead and knock out E7, because if D7's right here, E7's a whole step up. So take that sucker and move it a whole step up. Oh, there's a turnaround. You know what I'm saying? So how do we play it in A? Well, here's an A. Take that same shape, which is just on the roots on the A string, and there is the D7 chord. And come all the way up here to A, and bang, there it is. You know what I'm saying? So let's open up the jam track again, and let's take this thing for a spin. Right? Okay? So once again, now we have one lick, and we're doing it like over 3 chords. So we actually have 3 licks. So instead of 2 licks so far, we actually have 6 licks. Do you see where I'm going with this? If you embody this, this is a safety net, but it's also an opportunity to create a foundation for yourself to tweak these to become yours. So what I suggest is learn the licks from your favorite players and then make them yours. Tweak that ending note. Find out find out why that lick works. Bust it apart. Find out the intervals inside of it. And then put it back together in your own way, and then people think it's yours, and you just go, yeah, of course it's mine. I just made it up. Anyways. Now we have, what did I wind up doing for this next example? Okay.
Hey, Emil, was the last one example number 2, or was that just one you were making up to show?
You know what? Did I get it? Okay, that was example number 2. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure. So yeah, guys, the tab for is example number 2.
Yeah, that was example number 2, but I was putting like what you could call decoration all over it. I was kind of trying to, because if you play the lick, you're going to get hit with a scenario where it's maybe a different rhythm than what you learned the lick to, or like a different tempo. So what I try to do is I try to be able to kind of make it work over different tempos. So once you learn the lick, that's a whole other thing on your checklist, is make it work. Don't work it up to 120 BPM and then work it to 123 BPM and then 125. Don't do that. Work in 10 BPM increments. Why? Because it's going to be a drastic difference. So you're going to be able to basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Anticipate a tempo that you may not have expected. For example, as a faster player, the best way to mess a faster player up is to play something really slow, and they're just like, oh, my tricks don't work. I got to be honest and play real. Oh, no. Anyways. Don't tell anybody I said that, guys.
Well, right, we're only live.
Yeah,
so
we're only live in front
of
of a bunch of people, you know. So let's move on to example 3. And, this is one that came off of the Medeski lick. This organ trio, or this duo, I think, but it's Medeski, Martin, and Wood. And they had a record with John Scofield. And, they had this groove that was so slamming, and it's this groove here. And we're doing this, by the way, over E7. Lick 1 was over A7. Lick 2 is over D7. This one's over E7. And here's what it sounds like. 2, 3, 4. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty a long-winded riff, but that's cool because we can simply take and chop off the second measure and just have. If you want to create a cool narrative, how about playing, check this out, how about playing the first measure 2 or 3 times and then playing the second measure to end it? Kind of like a well-put sentence or a statement. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So that's a little bit of variation in there. And that one, once again, take a wild guess what note that is centered around. The major third, which is the primary chord tone, which is essentially, I say this all the time, the primary chord tones 1, 3, 5, 7. And this is the way that I see chord tones. Chord tones are your DNA. 1, 3, 5, 7 makes you, right? So if I alter the third or the seventh, that's going to extremely deface the sound of the chord. That's like the difference between male and female if you're talking DNA. But now 2, 4, and 6, the extensions, which is really 9, 11, 13, if you change those, it's the same you with a different color pair of shoes on, different hat, different hairstyle. Same person, just a little different today. Okay? So let's take this and throw it all over the board. And we're going to go... Now let's be able to move that. We're in E7, so let's go ahead and take that down a whole step because there's D7. It's only one whole step away from E7, so... Now, could you all hear the corresponding chords even though they're not even behind me? That right there was a turnaround. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here comes a jam track, and then we're gonna shuffle the deck. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna mix this stuff up and try to make music out of it. Okay, so that's essentially the 3 licks. Now we have 9 licks. Before we move on any further, do we have any questions, by the way? Anything new over there?
Yeah, this kind of is related to what we're talking about. Congressia from Livestream sent a private message. If I can only play a lick extremely slowly, like 1/3 of the original tempo, is that lick too advanced for me to learn?
No. These are the licks. I'm a naturally faster player, so I usually play licks probably a little faster than I should a lot of times. But the beauty of these licks, and remember what I said earlier, if you want to mess a faster player up, play a progression really slowly, like a ballad. As a matter of fact, do you guys know how Prince would actually audition drummers? This is a really cool thing. This is smart, too. Prince would audition drummers. He'd have a line around the block. And then what song would he call? He would call a ballad. Why? Well, when you've got every gospel drummer in the world wanting that gig, foaming at the mouth for it, every drummer that can play like, I don't know, paradiddles at a gazillion BPM with their eyes closed, chewing bubble gum and doing the yo-yo at the same time, and paying bills with the Regions Bank app. You guys don't have Regions Bank up here, do you? Anyways, he picks a ballad because it filters out all these people that are only capable of doing stuff that involves chops. And the guy that comes in that plays that ballad like an adult, well, guess what? He gets the gig because everybody's got chops. You're supposed to have chops if you want to be professional. So think about it, you know? And that's where we're going with this. These licks are cool, and I chose these licks because universally, I can play them fast and I can play them really slow because it's very small amounts of information. We're talking 3 or 4 notes in these licks, 5 or 6, 7 notes in these licks. And because they're small amounts of information, I can make adjustments really efficiently. Back to Paganini, because I've been bashing Paganini like since I've been here. If you learn Paganini and you got to make an adjustment, I mean, you got to possibly relearn like a whole section of whatever piece you're learning, you know, and that's important to think about. Once again, we don't want to fly an Arby's in and drop it off from a helicopter. We want to build a pyramid. That's cooler, and it takes a lot of smaller elements to create that bigger picture. And to the point of where they think aliens built it. Isn't that interesting? So these licks, the whole motive for me presenting these in this particular lesson is, yes, they're totally supposed to be played slowly. As a quick example for all 3 of them, just real fast, check this out. Okay? I can go even slower, but you kind of get the point. Make them work for yourself in whatever style you're after and whatever speed you're into. And, I mean, that's essentially, I think if that's what I hope that somebody would get out of this lesson is they can take these simple licks and go, oh, this is really easy. Because they're easy is fun. You know what I'm saying? And easy is something you can do tomorrow night. Not like, I want to play a gig next year one day. You know what I mean? So, okay. Let's see what we got coming up next here.
This is example 4, just for everyone out there.
Example 4. Oh, look at that. We're doing the A minor motif as well.
You seem surprised. Oh, look at how brilliant I am. I
Yeah,
can't believe I wrote that.
I totally forgot that we were doing minor in the same lesson. But that's actually good because before I jumped into this, I wanted to make sure that I show you all how to plot all these ideas into a different scenario. So we should be taking these dominant licks and I should be showing you how to use them in a minor blues, even though a minor blues is very different than a regular blues. So let's take a look at example 4. And let's see. Oh, you know what this is? This is Michael Jackson. Every time I show this to people, they bust out laughing, not because it sucks, it's because it's so awesome. Everything Michael Jackson did, you guys got to go back and check out those records. Anything Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson did is like, I mean, if you can't hear something that's of value, just listen again, man. It's like gold. So here's that lick. Think Smooth Criminal. The notation, I kind of had to start on a different interval, so let me kind of play it correctly and very slow for you. Okay. Okay, so that is the little Smooth Criminal motif. Now, applying this to the same process, I take it up in octaves. Oh, whoops. See, even that was cool. You see how I kind of change it and do my own thing with it? That's the idea. Even though I just made a mistake, sometimes you can change a mistake. Well, sometimes you can just pretend like it wasn't a mistake and it was intended. And if nobody believes you, just point at them and be like, yeah, like you're really pumped, and they think that you meant to do that. Little word for the wise there. So we learn this in octaves. We find out what interval it starts on. So this particular... Oh, look at that. It starts on the minor third, and we're playing it over a minor chord. How about that? Isn't it interesting? Up an octave. Okay, so to take this example a step further, we do have the D minor motif coming up next, but let's go ahead and take this and make it work over D minor. So minor blues, right? Okay, so where do we do it? Well, let's just look at the chord here. We could just take a little shortcut and go, okay, there's D minor. So a word to the wise, if you like comfortable pentatonic boxes, find out where this lands around that pentatonic box. So when I see D minor, I see the D minor pentatonic box. I also see this. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up that jam track of the minor blues, and let's see if we can take this for a spin. Pardon the improvisation there, but yeah. So notice, okay. Just a quick side note before we move on. Notice that there was an E7 that happened in that minor blues, and what did I do? And this is what I want you to do with these licks. Oh, there's a dominant chord. Oh, where's my go-to information? Oh, wait a minute. I've got three different licks that I can play the crap out of, and I can just bang right there. I don't even think about it. I just kind of like, well, I'm gonna do this one, and then it's back to business as usual. So without any chord accompaniment, 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute, one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So let's move on to the next example, and this will be the final example of this little session. And actually, it looks like I just kind of zipped past. Yeah, I already did number 5. Number 5 is the same thing. It's just done up over D minor. And so let me make sure that I'm correct with that. Yep. Okay, yeah. So basically that Michael Jackson motif, which is an awesome motif, awesome exercise, especially when you can learn it and put some funk into it, put some good feel in there. You basically just take it and any minor chord, it works over any minor chord. So let's kind of, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know, because I want to babble a bit about, I guess you could call it, I guess you could see how to get the most out of this and what to expect with it, because this is a method. And the first question was a very great question. And to kind of go back to that, it's a method, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Every method is not the be-all, end-all. It's just a method. It's kind of like it's kind of like having a 16-year-old kid, starting him out with his own car. Here, I bought you a car. Don't screw it up. And then they go get their own car one day. You know, terrible parallel. But it's kind of the truth with this sort of stuff here. This is to start you off, and then one day you take that foundation and build on top of it. And next thing you know, a real crafty musician hears you play, and they go, you know what? I hear a little bit of Michael Jackson in what you got going on there. I think his name is Paul Jackson Jr. that played the guitar on that, or Van Halen. You know, Van Halen played the solo on "Beat It," I believe. And like I said, I went and played France, and I put those Django licks in there, and I changed a few notes to make it my thing. But some dude was like, "You sound like Burley LeGrand and Django," and I'm like, "Really?" And like, "Yep, we hear it." And it's like, awesome. What a really good, encouraging statement to make to somebody. Oh, great. You told me I sounded like my hero. Thank God I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? So, to kind of take this virus and just spread it all around, think about this. Let's talk about, verbally, let's talk about the power of the lick, okay? If you have a minor lick, regular minor lick with nothing too technical, but let's just say it's based around the minor third, couple of other notes, similar to the Michael Jackson thing. How many minor keys are there in the C major scale? Remember, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. There are 3 minor keys that naturally exist inside the harmonized major scale. So when you harmonize a major scale, there's 3 minor chords. What does that mean? That means you can use the minor lick 3 different places in one key. You know? That also means that you can essentially use the pentatonic scale actually 3 different places in one key, which that's a little off topic and we won't go into those weeds, but that's truly what this method is. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I almost feel like that first question was a question I would have asked when I kind of started working on licks and stuff like that. So in a sense, we're taking a little bit of information and doing a lot with it. You know, it's just like magnifying your focus on one small thing to be able to think less and do more. And what did I talk about yesterday? Analysis paralysis. You're talking to the king of analysis paralysis. Well, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. And then I want to do nothing at all. You know, how do I get up the mountain? How do I get up the mountain? And by the time I figure it out, everybody else is already on the mountain waving at me. You know what I'm saying? So don't get involved in analysis paralysis. Try to take these ideas and run with them and make them your own, I think. So, my question to you is, do we have any questions at all about any of this information? Ho!
We have a question. Well, there's a real quick question from River Black that I'm not going to put up on screen, who says, are the sheets available for download? Yes. Just click the practice tab right above the video, and you can download a PDF that has everything, or you can download only what you want, so you don't have to take screenshots. And we have an actual question from Dr. Kirby, or, well, not an actual question, but we have a guitar question. It says, Captain Quickfingers, that's apparently your name, any tips on getting us slower folks up to your finger speed?
You know, I can answer that question in like 2 different ways. The first one's not as depressing as the second one. Totally kidding. Depressing was the wrong word to use. First off, if speed ain't your thing, don't worry about it. Yesterday, I talked about how I look at my students, my older like college kids, the kids that I have in college that I teach privately, and they go. They were talking about gigs and just wondering about the future, and same thing that all of us think about when we're diving into the workforce at a young age and trying to find ourselves professionally and starting up our own thing. I always tell them, you're going to get a gig before I do. And they look at me and they laugh. They go, what do you mean? I'm like, you're going to get a gig before I do. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, listen, if Celine Dion, I said this yesterday, if Celine Dion is looking for a guitarist to play the Titanic song, and they're going to look Emil Werstler up, she's probably going to just go, no, and she's going to close that. But if they look on YouTube or whatnot, or wherever they go, or somebody submits themselves playing that song well, playing it perfectly, playing it properly, they're going to get the gig, because playing fast is a specialized thing, and it impresses guitar players, but it doesn't impress music listeners, to be honest with you. Referring back to my little speech about Jamal Coleman in middle school, and the guy that was playing, I don't remember his name, the guy that was playing in the cover band with me, that I was like, how come everybody's watching him and not me? He sucks, you know, like, why aren't they paying attention? That's kind of what I'm saying. There is an acceptance, and I've especially come to terms with it a long time ago, where for me to truly diversify, it was know when to play fast, know when to diversify. So the first answer to your question is, don't worry if you can't play it fast. These licks are better when they're played slow, because the listener can actually comprehend them. Second answer to that question is, to be able to play fast and to harvest that kind of thing, start slow and do it all the time and make adjustments as you go. I don't know what skill level you're at, but I'll just kind of direct this to a general audience, let's say, of people who don't play fast. I would say you're gonna need to be able to alternate pick. You're gonna be able to understand what economy picking is. And from my perspective, and most importantly, you're gonna need to be able to understand that a hammer-on, a pull-off, and a slide is your left hand striking the guitar. So if your left hand strikes the guitar, you're just giving your right hand a break to make adjustments. Example, who out there has rowed a canoe before? You ever been in a canoe with another person? You got one guy in the back rowing, you got the other guy in the front rowing. What happens when the guy up front quits rowing? The canoe moves forward, but it starts turning, right? What happens if the guy up front keeps rowing and the guy in the back stops rowing? It kind of just stays still and goes in circles eventually. And so there is a relationship, a working relationship between the person up front rowing and the person in the back rowing. One's the propeller and one is like, what would you call it? One is steering, one is guiding the direction, the actual boat or whatnot is going. So that's a parallel to guitar playing. Your right hand is your propeller. It can go on its own for a minute, but you don't want to go in circles. The left hand is capable of striking at the guitar just like the right hand, but the difference is when the left hand strikes the guitar with a hammer on, a pull off, or a slide, you're giving the right hand a split second or more to adjust. How does that really come into play with the question? Well, I think it comes into play with the question because the fast players is a deceptive thing. If I play something fast, there's usually like a note in there that's hammer on, pulled off, or a slide. And that allows my right hand to not have to commit to some esoteric picking style. If I want to just alternate pick everything, I can do that. I'll just kind of leave a couple of notes off that are hammer on and pulled off so I can make my adjustments. So to answer your question, first off, you got to do it all the time. Make it your religion. Just practice every day and, make leaps and bounds, And remember, the other side of it is if you don't naturally have it, is it really worth it for you to go track it down? Some of the best players I've ever met have no interest in playing fast. They don't even play with a pick, actually. I mean, go look at Derek Trucks. That guy don't care about speed because he'd make a guy like me sound silly by hitting a couple of notes, just like B.B. King. So I hope that helps you. If you want to go there, just make sure you go big or go home. Go all out. Try everything in the book and just be devoted to it. And look at yourself in the mirror because you may go, you know what? I don't really want to play as fast as Yngwie. Why would I do that when I can just play a really cool lick that's appropriate? And then that'll sell more records or that'll turn more heads live.
All right. I've been trying to get people to ask some questions, but there are no more questions.
No more questions?
No more questions.
Let me do a little, we'll do a little play along thing here. Let's see. Okay. Let me see here. I think I know how this goes. That was fun. All right, so let me stop this real quick. We got a few minutes left, and I mean I can talk about this stuff all day because mainly he is like slow is super awesome, then immediately starts shredding. Well, yeah, come on, cut me some slack. I could talk about this kind of stuff all day in various ways because I do think it's very important. And the one thing that I'll kind of some words of advice, if I could give them, when it comes to improving and kind of finding yourself, just remember, like, there's no, I mean, music is an art form, and from what I've learned in my life, art is an opinion. You know, you think Picasso's great. I think it looks like a 6-year-old did that with finger paints. You know what I mean? I don't really feel that way. Maybe I do really feel that way. But the point being is that art is an opinion, you know? Did it sound that bad? You know, art is an opinion. So
that
like,
was out of context. He was referring to your previous answer.
That's amazing. Oh, that's perfect timing. You know, the same way that somebody who likes B.B. King or whoever, that, you know, they're not going to really, they may appreciate a faster player like Django, or Dimebag Darrell from Pantera or Yngwie or whatever. But since it's kind of an opinion, it's sort of it's kind of whatever works. So, and also since it's an opinion, you know, when it comes to improving and finding yourself, there is no right step in the right direction. Just taking a step is what is all that matters. You know what I mean? I spent so many years of my life on that balcony in Atlanta, Georgia, with my friends being like, how are we going to do this? Like, I can play anything that can possibly be played, and look at me, I'm a broke college kid, you know? And now those conversations have drastically changed. We get together, you know, the same guys have families now, they're professionals, I'm professional, we still play, and every once in a while we get to see each other, we have the same conversations, but those conversations involve different things, not how do I play, how do I go get gigs? The conversations now are, how do I get better? Like, you know, and sometimes I'll even get with my buddies, and they're sort of my peers still as well, so I'll say, hey, are you free for a Skype session? Do you want to get on and just kind of share some ideas? And we share some ideas together, and I'm picking my best friend's brain, who does like jazz funk fusion way better than I could ever dream of doing it. And so he's like a gold mine for me. So we get together and we have these conversations, and really and truly it all comes back around to the same conclusion, which is that there is no right way. It's almost like you have to just really be dead set on your goals, and then the universe kind of delivers what you're supposed to get, depending on what you discover, how you interpret it, and how hard you work, and how much you truly care about it. So once again, when it comes to improving and maybe finding yourself, or if you just want to be a hobbyist that you just want to sound good and go play at the open mic down the street, remember, everything is about goals, for sure. I talk about that all the time, but there is no right direction. Sometimes you can take a step in the wrong direction, and it just shows you that the other way is correct. You see what I'm saying? You go down the wrong street, you're like, I don't recognize this. We better turn around. Then you know that if you go down that way long enough, you're not going to see the 7-Eleven or whatever, and you know you went the wrong way. So you learn. Next thing you know, you never take that left turn. You go right at the stop. And it's the same thing with life. It's the same thing with guitar. And, you know, I think it's the same thing with just improving. And there's no really right or wrong way, because remember, art is an opinion. You know, I think Salvador Dali murders Picasso, but I'm sure Picasso probably has some sort of like significance. Maybe he was around when there was like a human rights thing uprising or something. I don't know. I'll have to check out my social studies book there. But anyways.
I feel like we're going to get some angry comments about how we do not know our artwork.
Yeah.
We have a good question from Deanna Bonds, who's totally awesome. And she says, do you ever take those pre-learned licks and throw a slower moving melody on top of them or embedded with them?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that same guy I keep talking about, Trey Wright, the guy that taught me after college, the only guy I really had like real private lessons with. Let's see if I can think of the... Do you guys like how I'm like giving you the tuning song, but I have a tuner right in front of me? I think I'm just like trying to get you guys to ask questions. I'm not trying to give you the tuning song. Sorry about that. Anyways, there's a long form version of a lick and a short form version. And this is really interesting. I'll try to make one of these up, but let me see if I can remember the lick that he showed me. It's 1-6-2-5-1 lick. I won't bother, like, don't worry about it. It's all good. Your ears will do the work for you. Here's a 1-6-2-5. Okay, so that's a 1-6-2-5, otherwise known as rhythm changes. And the turnaround for a jazz blues is a 1-6-2-5 just done in cut time. And for those of you that don't know what cut time is, it's the same exact chord just done twice the speed. So here's a 1-6-2-5 real fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turnaround. So What this guy taught me was, and this is another thing jazzers do, which is really smart, is you do a lick that, here's a lick. Oh, let's see if I remember it. That's it. But if you're going, if you're playing that's for the cut time one. How do you play it on the regular 1/6-2/5 with the regular speed? Well, here's the way it's phrased. Here it is fast. So let me try to, if you heard that, cool. If not, let me try to take a regular lick and turn it into more of a long form thing. Let's see. Okay, here's one. Let's shuffle the deck a little bit more. Okay, it's a lot different than, how about, I mean, really, that lick is kind of grounding the other decoration or improvisation around it. And that's sort of the idea. So you could take that lick, and I would say walk up to it with a scale, with a simple arpeggio or scale. So maybe something like... And even if you want to get more simple... That's the best one. That's sick. You know what I'm saying? That's going to get you a gig before all the other stuff I was doing. Then check this out. All right. So, any final questions?
Yeah, we got
Yes.
one more question here from Lucas. Sorry if this is already mentioned before, but would you recommend to sing the melodies and licks as you learn them, or to figure out the licks you hear by ear?
I think all the above. I think that all is fair in love and war, and I grew up as an ear player. I saved myself a lot of time. But if I see a mistake in tablature or notation, I go, what is that? Like I did a Broadway gig, where I was forced to sight read, and it was a really cool experience. I wound up being, I think, really good at it. Just the devotion and getting it right and caring to make the adjustments when the musical director is like, Emil, that sounds terrible, fix it, I would be completely lying if I told you I didn't pull some moves that were just like, if you ask me, hey, man, so did you just sight read? I'll be, yeah, sight read the whole thing. Nah, man. I was familiar with some of the songs, and I heard some of it, and I saw what I was in for. I'd look at the notation to make sure it added up, and I would literally just, if I could pull it out by ear, I'll do that right there, to be honest with you. The Unearth gig that I filled in for, as well as the Chimera gigs that I filled in for, there was a lot of, I'm not going to even try to find the tab. I'm not even going to try to, I'm just going to learn it by ear. In other words, if I hear it and I know I can hear it and I know I can play it because I hear it, I go ahead and just do that. But also, I'm trained. I'm a professional. I can read notation. I can read tab. So I'll do it that way too. So to me, it's whatever saves me the most time. And I would say learn the lick by whatever means necessary. To make sure that you don't ruin the fun factor, because here's the honest to God truth. Really, I think the most important thing, and I stress this with all my students, and I mention it on Jam Play all the time, is that we're humans and we want instant gratification, and you have to protect the fun factor, because when you're inspired because you're having fun and whatever endorphin rush you're getting from like playing music and having a blast with your friends, that is more powerful than anything you can learn anywhere, period. I know people that don't know anything about music, but because they just turn into a ball of energy and light and positivity when it comes to music, they're capable of moving mountains. Where I know people that are going, that I know prestigious people that teach at prestigious colleges that are just curmudgeons and they just don't care, and because their their fun factor was ruined a long time ago. Another little personal item. I started a new band. I started a new band for myself because my fun factor was getting hurt really bad, and I decided that it was either I got to do my own thing or I'm going to quit altogether and just go find a job because I can't do this anymore. So I had the foresight to go, you know what? I'm not going to let some situation or person or thing ruin my ambition and ruin the fact that, you know what, it's supposed to be fun. So my answer is get it down by whatever means necessary as fast as you can, because you got some playing to do. You got some fun to be having, whether it's on your couch, at the coffee shop, or at Madison Square Garden. You know what I'm saying? So just go and learn it and then put your stamp on it. And if somebody with the pocket protector, no offense to you guys that were pocket protectors, but if somebody with like, you know, a pocket protector is like, you can't learn by ear, everything has to be read in Roman numerals, then you know what? Whatever, man. They're not having fun. So whatever floats your boat, you know what I mean? Like whatever gets you across. They used to say that in school all the time. Whatever gets you across the river. I may take a vine. This other guy's smarter. He just got a raft, but there's piranha in there, so his feet got eaten. That's like the music business, I guess. Anyways, yeah, whatever means necessary, learn it, and then have as much fun as possible and make it sound as good as possible. Because here's the thing: even if you sound terrible, but you're on a stage and you're having fun and you're just literally just doing your own thing, people are going to clap for you. That's the secret. Believe it or not, they're going to give you an E for effort. If you're up there looking miserable and you sound great, they're not going to care. So I hope that helps. Sweet.
All right, that's it. No more questions.